Now, as it says on here, today we're going to continue with the database portion of the class. Now, I wanted to grade your test last night. I didn't. Let me just tell you quickly why. I was running queries last night, and every query I was running was coming back with no records found. Every single thing I did, which said to me there was a problem rather with my data. And there was. And I realized what I'd given you guys was an old version of this. Now, why does that matter? Because some of the employee IDs started with 1 and some started with 701. So that meant when we were trying to map the two of them up, it didn't work because 1 doesn't equal 701. So what I did this morning was I called it take 2, and it's the second version. So this is what I'd like us all to do. All right. You've all got an email this morning with a zip file that's called all v2. I'd like you to grab that, unzip it, put it on your desktop or wherever you typically put this stuff. All right. And I'll give you a second to do that. I've got the same thing, so I'm going to unzip it as well right here. There we go. Now, once you have done that, and if you're still doing it, don't worry about it, but I just want to show you real quickly the big difference between this and what we did yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess. I've added this extra file called constraints that may or may not make any sense to you, and if it doesn't, don't worry about it. But I've gone back and massaged, whatever you want to call it, the data in all of these other files, okay? And I want to show you this picture here because it's different, it looks different, but it's the same information as the one that I gave you the other day, except now it's correct. The one that I gave you the other day had a bunch of old names on it. In other words, instead of being called order ID here, yours says order number. There is no field called order number. This one said order number. This said product number. This said category number, etc. So there were mistakes in there. Also, if you take a look on here, and it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see that there are relationships. Every table that's in here is linked to another table, either directly or indirectly. And I'm going to show you how you can do this with very little work in just a couple minutes. All right. So this is what I would like you to do. If you have not already done so, or if it's not up and running or whatever, and I did find out when you do close XAMP, check the X, don't check the quit. If you check the X, it will just close. I tried it a bunch of times, and it won't lock up as it's been doing the other way. All right. But if you don't have XAMP up, bring it up. Click on the button right here that should say Start. That's by Apache. Click on the one next to it or underneath it for MySQL. They should both turn these green. They may turn yellow first. If yours turns red, then we'll have to work on it during the break because it means you've got a problem with an initialization file. All right. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not a hardware guy, okay? But when XAMP runs, it's expecting to use a certain port number on your computer. If you're already using that port number for something else, it'll complain. And I'm going to tell you this, you may not believe me, but it's the truth because we counted. About, now it must be a good 10 years ago when I was teaching in Wisconsin, I had a student, we all went and installed this. It was a much earlier version, of course, and everybody's worked. There were 17 people in the class, and 16 people worked. One guy's didn't work. He didn't have the problem that Gabriel B had the other day. It wasn't a thing with an initialization file. It just didn't take the install. So he goes, I'll try it again. And it was right before a break, so it wasn't a big thing. So we took a 15-minute break. He installed it 17 times. tried to install it and uninstall it. Finally, on the 18th time, it took. What was different between those? Absolutely nothing. So why did it take that time? I don't know. Why did it not take the other previous 17 times? I don't know. But after that, his worked just fine. All right. And I have absolutely no idea why something like that would happen. Now, the other thing is, and if you weren't here the other day, you haven't seen this, but if you look up on the screen here, right to the right on the MySQL line, so the second thing down, there's a button that says admin. Please click that button, the one that I've highlighted. Not the admin for Apache, but the admin for MySQL, the one that's highlighted here. All right. When you do that, again, it should bring up a software product that's part of this XAMP or XAMP feature of products that's called PHP MyAdmin. What that allows you to do is it's a semi-GUI way of creating databases, creating tables, running queries, etc. And it's the one we're going to use. If we didn't do that, we would have to go out to a DOS shell and do it out here. And that's a pain in the butt. It's not that you can't do most, if not all of that stuff through there. It's just not fun. So hopefully if you've done that, now you've got a window up, and that window will look like this, or at least something like this. Yours may not look exactly like this, and if it doesn't, don't worry about it. Now, if you weren't here the other day when we went over this, don't listen for 30 seconds. If you were here the other day and you look along the side right here, you've got a database called sales orders. That database is not good. So we're going to get rid of it. And all we have to do to get rid of it is click up here where it says SQL, and then type in the following command. Drop database sales orders. I've already dropped mine. So I'm not going to run this query because I get an error message. So just tell it to drop that database. All right. And if you say drop database sales orders, you got to spell it right, of course. Sales orders. And if you say that, and then you come down here and you click the go button, it should remove it. It shouldn't be there anymore. I apologize for that. Like I said, it's all on me. All right. So we're going to recreate it right now. And again, I'm trying to show you the easiest way. It was interesting yesterday. Mr. Schmidt, some of you know Mr. Schmidt probably from Lewis and Clark. We were talking during this Zoom meeting, and we share a lot of the same opinions, and we differ on certain things. But one thing I mentioned to the students yesterday is sometimes there might be 10 or 12 ways to do the same thing. I don't see the big benefit me showing you 12 ways to do the same thing. So what I try to do is come up with the 2, 3, 4 at the most ways that I consider to be the most intuitive, and I'll show you those. And I'll say, now, there's other ways of doing it, all right? And if you want to find those out, look them up. Okay? But I'll figure that most people are going to use one of those ways that I showed because they're typically the easiest. So we're going to come back in and we're going to do a lot of what we did the other day. And what I want you to do, and if you weren't here the other day, you're going to catch up right now. Again, I'm assuming that you've got that file, that zip file that I sent you, and you unzipped it. So I'm assuming it's on your desktop or wherever you unzip files to. So up here, click the button or the hyperlink here that says new. All right. And it says you have unserved changes. That's just on mine. Sure. Okay. So it should come up then and look like this. All right. We could call it sales orders again. Totally fine. I made it with a little lowercase s and a big O. It doesn't matter. Write it any way you want. All right. Why did I do it this way? Well, if you notice on here, the way that they do it is they put everything in lowercase and between words, they put an underscore. So we can do that if you want to. So in other words, if you want to, feel free to put it in like this. SALES, all in lowercase, underscore, orders. See that? That's probably the most common way of doing it. You're not turning any of this in, so however you do it is totally up to you. All right, but I'm going to do that. Again, this is the Unicode character set that's right here, and this shows the existing databases that we already have. All right, so I'm just going to click Create, and then I should notice, or you should notice, now I've got something over here called Sales Orders. Now, I created this last night to make sure it would work as sales. I don't want you to do that. I'm just replicating what I did last night. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So before we start bringing the files in, which is what we're going to do next, again, this is especially for the benefit of those of you who weren't here the other day, I want to go over a couple of these files. This first one that we're going to put in is the schema. So this is the name of every table that we have in here. Did you hear me? It's the name of every table, and it's the name of every field, and it's the description or data type of every field. And most of these fields, if not all of them, also contain constraints. If it says not null, and you can see all of the ones that will be our primary keys should say not null, that means that field cannot be left empty. If it says null, it can be left empty. And I gave you this example the other day where I said, hey, maybe we create a new category. So we've got a new category ID here, but we don't even know what it's going to be yet. So we don't have a description. So we can leave that blank, and later we can go back and add a description. Now, again, more for the benefit of those of you who weren't here the other day, but we went in and did something similar to this. Then we ran a bunch of select statements, a lot of them. And then when we got done with that, we ran an insert statement. Then we ran an update statement. Then we ran a delete statement. The select just allows you to look at data. You can't change it. You can just look at it, all right? So it makes it easier to think of it this way. Select statements are read-only. Does that make sense? All right. Then we did an insert where we put in a new record. We're going to do some of this today. We're not going to go through this. I put 22 queries in here. There's a hell of a lot of typing, if nothing else. I did it all, but I don't expect you to do that. So we're going to go through some of this stuff and some other stuff in just a little bit. So we did an insert where I showed you how I could insert myself. I put myself in as a customer. All right. Then I said, okay, let's just pretend instead of Wentzville, I was in St. Louis. And I went in there and I did an update and I changed the city from Wentzville to St. Louis. And just so you could see multiple changes, I changed the state from Missouri to Illinois. Then I said, let's just delete the record. So we went through all of those. And I mentioned to you that basically when you are talking about working in databases, these are referred to as CRUD operations. CRUD is create, and create is pretty much an insert. R is read, and read is pretty much a select. U is update, and D are delete. So those should just make sense taking a look at them. All right? But much of the work that you will do for the rest of this semester, much of the work that you will do, those of you who will be in the AWD1100 class in fall, the third class of 4, where we use Node.js, we're going to do a lot of CRUD work. All right. So again, this first file has got the schema. So we're going to run this one in just a minute. After we do, and I think this is going to work, I don't remember because unfortunately I was working on this later last night. I probably wasn't totally with it. There's another file that also starts with 00 that I created yesterday. And that is explaining the relationship between tables. All right, and I don't expect that to make sense, but we will look at that in a bit, and then we'll look at that drawing to try to make some sense out of it. All right, and then following that, we're going to bring in 01, 02, all the way through 08. And let's just look at, I'll look at 02 for a second. All right, I tried to make sure, I went and changed all these to cust instead of customer, and it just looked funky on the page. So I changed all the stuff back. Now, the unfortunate thing is that means these field names are long. Now, if you use any kind of an editor, even Notepad++ like I have, all right, it will kick in the IntelliSense and it will remember names after you've typed them in. All right, but the first time or two that you start typing stuff, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of typing. So this is an example. What are we doing here? I'm inserting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. There's about 27 or 28 customers that we're going to put in here. All right. And the customer's first name is Suzanne. The customer's last name is Viscas. The address is all of this stuff. The city is Redmond. The state is WA for Washington. The zip code there. The area code there. And the phone number there. This is how we map everything up. All right, so in other words, every piece of data that it's expecting, we're giving it a piece of data. Now, could we have left some of this stuff out? Yeah. Again, go back and look at this. This is the customers table. All that we had to add was an ID. Everything else could conceivably have been null. Now, if we had left it null, so let's say, for example, we have no idea what the person's area code and phone number are. Are you with me? You don't even have to put null. You just don't put them in there. All right. So in other words, if we didn't know the area code and we didn't know the phone number for Suzanne Viscas, then we would just leave these two things out here, and we'd leave these two things out here. Does that make sense? And then later, we could go back and we could do what's called an alter table statement, where we could add that information back in again. It's totally fine to do that. What you ideally want to do is, as soon as you set up your schema, you want to set up your record information too. And the reason you want to do that is if for some reason something is screwed up, you want to know about it as soon as possible. All right. Back in the days when I was a, quote, professional programmer, unquote, the last year that I was at AT&T, I didn't like the group I was working with. Most of the people I knew had taken jobs in other places or switched departments or whatever, and we got a new boss, and he and I didn't really get along. So I went to a software engineering group, and one of the things that we did in there was we tracked errors. All right, and they were able to track errors where somebody left something out of code or put something into code that shouldn't have been put there, etc. And they found out that the most costly error they had, all right, was it literally cost the company $5 million. And it's because they left off one line of code in a program. So think about it. If they had thought about that one line, and they had thought about it when that person was putting the code in, it technically wouldn't have cost anything. All right. So the sooner you can find an error, the sooner you can fix the error, and the cheaper it will be to recover from that. So if you've got mistakes, you want to find them out as soon as you possibly can, is what I'm saying. All right. So again, we're going to do something very similar to what we did the other day. So coming back here, what I want you to do is you want to make sure that that's your active database, and up here it should say database sales orders. See this? If yours doesn't say that, you should be able to just click on it, and then it should say it up here. See that way up here? Yours should say that. We want to make sure we're putting the right tables into the right database. All right. So the first thing we're going to do then is we're going to click up here where it says import. And it says importing into database sales orders. That's what we want to do. So we're going to click the Choose File button. And we're going to go over, and where we just grabbed that all V2 folder, we're going to open that up. And we're going to find, make sure you put in Schema first. So you want to put in the 00-schema file. So you click on that one and click Open. And you'll know it worked if it looks like 00schema.sql right here. If you've done that and it appears to have worked, just come in and click Go. What happened? It's pretty easy for you to see what happened here. You shouldn't have any errors. I ran through this 3 times yesterday to make sure we wouldn't get any errors when we did this. But you now have built the schema. You have now built the schema for the 8 tables that make up this database. There's no data in them yet, but the schema is there. So 1 down, 7 or 8 to go, or 9. So with all that in there, click Import again, please. So up here, click Import up near the top. Again, click Choose File. And choose 00-constraints. With that chosen, click Open. It should now say here 00-constraints.sql on your page. And again, click Go. What happened in there right now is we've added relationships between the tables. Again, I will show you exactly what I mean in about 5 minutes. All right, so if that doesn't make any sense to you right now, please don't let that bother you. It's totally fine. All right, so click Import again. Go to Choose File. Go to 01 Categories. Open that. Make sure it says 01 Categories right here. Go down and click Go again. And now we have put in our first thing of records. And if you notice here, it says we now have stuff in categories. So you don't have to do this, but if you'd please look up on the screen here. Now if I come in and I say select star from categories, and I run the query, it shows that I've got 6 categories. That should make sense really to you. But if I come back and run here, select star from customers, and I run that query, it comes back with nothing because we haven't put in the record information yet. All right, so we're just going to continue along our merry way, so to speak. So I'm going to click, again, I'm going to come back up here and click Import and choose File. And now I'm going to go to 02 Customers, click Open, make sure it says 02 Customers there, and click Go. Now I've just put in 27 or 28 or something like that customers. It says 27 queries executed, so I must put in 27 customers. I'm not going to do it, but I could now go back into my query box and type in select star from customers, and it would show me my customers. All right. So the next thing, we're going to, again, do another import, choose File, go to 03, go to Employees, make sure it says 03 Employees, click Go, and I think we've only got about 8 employees. All right. And again, this file was cleaned up yesterday, so all of the stuff that we're doing now should work. All right. Okay, so you can guess what's coming next. We just did employees. I think that's the one we just did. So I'm going to go to 04 orders. Make sure it says that. Click Go. This is going to take longer because there's 944 orders. It's up already, but it took a little bit longer, as you might guess, because it had to populate 944 different records. All right. So again, import, choose File. 5 is Vendors. Same kind of thing. Click Go. And you'll notice that we have, it says 10 queries executed, so we've got 10 vendors. All right. Couple more, and then we'll be finished here. 6 is Products. And that says that we've got 40 queries. So we've got 40 different products. All right. Import again. I'm going to choose 7, which is Order Detail. This one, this is where Gabriel, Mr. Breeding here, this is where his broke. Now, I don't know if it's his computer. I don't know. But there's 3,975, I think, records in here. And this expects, all right, this software expects that it's going to be able to load and process stuff in a certain amount of time. And if it cannot, it'll blow up. If something like that were to happen to you, I mean, this is a big file. You'd have to separate the file into smaller files. All right, mine did not break, but I've got 07 order detail, but again, it takes a little bit longer. And you'll notice it says, browse your computer. Please be patient. The file is being uploaded. Details about the upload are not available. And now it came back. So it's not that it took super long, but as far as computer processing time, it took quite a while. All right. And now I'm going to put in the last one. And 8 is product vendor. And there were 90 records in there, as opposed to the previous one that had 3,975. So that one basically went like that. So now what we have done is we have created 8 tables. We created the schema for 8 tables. Then we added constraints. Then we populated each table with record information. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Now, there should be something that's up here and it's not showing right now, and that's okay. So I'm going to click up here where it says sales orders. I'm going to click on this one more time right there. I'm just going to click there. All right. And still not seeing it, but we're going to find it. Let's see. That's not what I want. Here we go. All right. If you would please make sure that your database is active, it should be, and click right here where it says structure. Okay? Now what that shows you, and I'm not, hopefully it just makes sense looking at it, is it says, okay, you now have these 8 tables. Okay, so if you wanted to, if you screwed it up or something, you could check on one or more of them, click the drop, and you could get rid of them. We don't want to do that. We just fill them. But do you all have a thing over here on the right that says more with an arrow there? Does everybody have that? Right there? Then click. And down here where it's, work your way down. And the second one from the bottom, click the word designer. And it's going to look like a big mess. We're going to fix it in just a minute. But it's going to look like a big mess. All right. What's that?
Sorry, I click on the more than all I see is triggers.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for the more we don't have a more. Oh, there it is. Okay, never mind.
What we have here are all of our tables and all of our relationships. The bad thing is it threw all of them up against the wall to see what would stick. So in other words, they're all just in a glob, for lack of better words. So we're going to, again, for lack of better words, unglob them. So I'm going to grab this orders table and I'm going to stick it about in the middle. This is a quirky product to work with. I'm warning you right now. You can be moving it and all of a sudden it doesn't let you move anymore. So you got to click off of it and click onto it again. I don't know why. I didn't make the software. All right. But what I want to do is I want to take this employees thing and put that up near the top. And I'm going to do that in just a second. So I want to take the employees and basically put it like up over there. And then I want to take the customers and I want to put it underneath the employees. All right, so I've got something that kind of looks like this. There's a method to my madness. There's a reason I'm having you put them in this order. I realize it's a little hard to see here unless I make it smaller. All right, under orders, I want to put order detail right there. All right, so under order, I want to put order detail. So that's 4 of my things. And under order detail, I want to put categories. All right, so that's 5 of mine. Then up here, I want to put products. Underneath products, I got to yank it from down here. I want to put in product vendor. So when you get all done, it should pretty much look like this. And don't worry, you're not being graded on this. You're not turning this in. I'm trying to have you set this up so I can explain the relationship between tables to you and hopefully get you to where you can understand the meaning of what a foreign key is. All right. So again, even if you're looking at this and you're like, well, I guess it sort of makes sense. That's good. That's where you should be. If you told me you understood 100% of this right now, I'd be amazed. When I first learned this stuff, I didn't understand it. All right. So if you take a look up on the screen here, some of this should be very, very self-evident to you. You might be able to see in gray here, it says sales orders for each one of these. What is that? It's the name of the database, right? That's not in bold, it's just grayed out, so it's showing you the name of the database that all of these are associated with. It is possible that if you would write a complex enough application, you could have multiple databases and you could actually be combining information together from multiple databases. Maybe you say, no, come on. Well, what if I go out to Amazon and I decide I'm going to order 3 different books? So let's say that I'm going to order a book, I don't know, some kind of a sports book on basketball. Then I'm going to order another book on JavaScript, and then I'm going to order another book, maybe Joe Biden's life story. And all 3 of those are different things. It's very possible that I could have 3 different databases, one that would hold sports books, or maybe something specific for baseball or whatever it would be, something for politics or autobiographies or whatever, then the other one. You get the idea though. So it's totally possible and plausible that you could have a diagram like this that would literally have hundreds of different things in it. All right? And it could have dozens of different databases. We're not going to that extreme. All right? So these are the tables we put in. If you remember, we put in the categories table first. The categories table had a category ID in it and a category description, and it had 6 records. It doesn't show you here how many records are in it. This is just a schematic diagram. Then we put in our employees, and you can see that information. Then we did our customers, and you can see that information. Then we did our orders, all right? Then we did our products. Then we did our vendors. Then we did our order detail and our product vendor. But by adding that constraints file that I had you add second, that's what put in these arrows between these. And what it said was, hey, I want to be able to link together employees and orders, but there's no field in common. So we're going to take the primary key from our table, which is kind of, I'm not supposed to use the words master and slave type of thing anymore, but let's call it parent and child, whatever you want to call it. All right? More important, less important, I don't know. But we took that employee ID and we added it to this table. The only reason that that field was added to the second table was so that we could join that information between those 2 tables together. So when you take the primary key of one table and you add it as a field in another so you can make a relationship, then the key, or sorry, the field in the other table that's not a primary key anymore, that's called a foreign key. So you put that in there so that you're able to create relationships between the two. So you can see there's a foreign key relationship here. There's a foreign key relationship between customer ID here and customer ID here, etc. This is going to look really ugly real fast if I keep throwing this stuff. But you can see, hopefully, all of these relationships. And you'll notice that the way that this is set up, and I think I said this the other day, but I'm going to repeat myself, and that is there's no table out here that's an island. In other words, there's no table that's not connected directly or indirectly to another table. Now, the reason that that becomes important is let's pretend for a second that what I wanted in here, and don't ask me why we'd want this, but I wanted a list of all my customer names, just the first name and the last name, and I wanted a list of the vendors that they're using. Are you with me? That's all I want. Just 3 fields: customer first name, customer last name, and vendor name. Well, there's no direct relationship between here and here. So what I have to do is I have to take this table together, this table right here, and I'm going to join it with this table right here. Then I'm going to take this table right here and join it together like with this. I might have to join together 5 different tables to get the information I want. All right, and it comes into some god-awful looking queries after a while when you do this. So the whole idea behind this, and you may or may not have heard of the term data mining before, but the idea is the data's in there, but sometimes you've got to dig for it. All right, just like, you know, if you're mining for gold or whatever. All right, and people who become really good at this can make a lot of money. You know, and start thinking about why stuff in here might be important. Well, let's see, products. Notice in here there's a product quantity. I might want to set it up, and this is way beyond the realm of this course, but one thing that you can put into a database are what are called triggers. And what a trigger would do would say that if a quantity that you've got in stock would reach a certain level, it would automatically kick in that it would reorder more. All right. I mean, think about it. You know, you go to McDonald's, and probably the last thing in the world they want to do is at 12 noon is run out of hamburgers or buns or whatever. All right. And we start looking through here too. Okay, what do we have here? Well, let's see. We've got a quantity order. Well, we could go in and take a look at our customers, and we could look at all of the quantities that they order. And we might find out that we've got a certain customer who's ordering more than anybody else. And we may decide to treat that customer differently. And I've said this kind of thing to you guys before, but do you think that, you know, if I were to walk into Lowe's, for example, to order something, and they quoted me a price, do you think they'd quote that same price to Walmart? I don't. Because Walmart buys a much bigger quantity than I would. All right, and if you think of a place like Sam's, you know, they're even order typically more than Walmart does, because they order, again, in bigger quantities. Right? So we could mine our way through here and find whatever it is we wanted to find. And, you know, for, you know, another thing too, when you start looking at it, and you come in here and you look at, you know, the quantity in stock, etc. If you notice that something has got a big quantity in stock, and you look at it again a week later and nothing's changed, and you look at it a week later and nothing's changed, maybe there's something wrong with that product. Maybe you've got to put it on sale. Maybe you want to discontinue it. I don't know. But this kind of information is used by a variety of different kinds of people. Marketing people use this. I will tell you, because I've created reports like this before. Supervisors love stuff like this. You know, and I've gotten to the point, and this is it's going to sound like it's not really meant to be a rip on supervisors. Most supervisors are really good at managing people, but a lot of times, you know, they have a hard time understanding exactly what it is people below them do. But they can look at reports and they can say, hey, this product's really moving. or this product ain't moving. And when you start looking at it with employees, well, maybe you want to see how your employees are interacting. And you could, maybe you find out with those 8 employees that 6 of them are doing all the work and 2 of them are basically doing almost nothing. So maybe those 2 should be replaced. I don't know. But again, like I said, there's just a wide variety of uses for this stuff. Okay? So you've got this drawing now. Okay? And you may have made it yourself. You may not have. In fact, I made one like it this morning. You may care, you may not care, but as we start to peruse our way through this, you may find it helpful to take a look at this. In a lot of other software packages, it's not even as hard as this is. In other words, all you have to do with a lot of software packages, literally all you have to do is click a button and it creates all of it for you.
You already gave us a copy of this,
That's not the same thing anymore.
Huh?
No, that one is useless. That one I gave you the other day because it says stuff in it like product number. There is no product number. This is correct. That one is the best place for that one would be garbage. I don't know what happened, but I seem to have lost my connection here. There we go. So we're going to take a break in a little bit, but before we do, I gave you this handout today that's about 5 or 6 pages long, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. We're not going to run through all of this, but I want to run through a few things that are in here, and I want to run through a few things that are not in here. All right? So we're going to start 9 o'clock. We'll take a break. Now, I don't care about this anymore. I don't even know how you save this. It says you can save the image as if you right mouse click. So if you created yours and you're proud of it, you can click Save Image As, and you can tell it where to save it to and what to save it as if you want to do that. All right, I've already got it saved someplace on my desktop, so I'm not even going to save it. And if you click back up here at the top again, or if you click on Sales Orders, it should go away. All right. What we're going to want to do then is click into this SQL window that's right here, because we're going to run a few queries. Some of these we ran the other day. Some of these we did not run the other day. All right. But I'm trying to be as complete as I can, because by probably Tuesday, or no later than Wednesday, but probably Tuesday next week, we're going back and we're going to try to put this into the realm of using it with C#. All right, so you're just getting databases thrown at you hot and heavy for a few days. And then we're going to come back and say, how do you use these things in a programming language? All right, so again, the goal here is to just show you a couple things. If at any time I forget, or I want to know at any time, geez, I don't remember what that name is, and I don't have that handy dandy drawing that Jeff gave me, and I don't remember, you can always come in and type in this DESC followed by the name of a table. So if I say DESC categories, you notice that the IntelliSense kicks in, so I can say that. Now, DESC is an overloaded word. It means describe right here. If we use DESC in a query, it means descending. So it's contextual in nature. It'll mean one of two things depending upon the way it's being used in the query. This is a query that says, please show me the schema for the categories table. So I click DESC categories. I come down here and I click go, and you can see what it shows me. Now, I don't expect you to do this for all 8, but if you look at the handout that I gave you, that's what number 1 right there is. So anytime you want to see the schema for any one of your tables, and there's other ways you could do it as well, but you put in typically DESC, which means describe in this case. I'm saying describe the categories table. The way it's described is it shows you the schema. And if we look in here, it's saying we have 2 fields. The first field is an integer. You know what an integer is, and it's of size 11. What does that mean? That means the biggest number we can put in there, if I did my math right, would be 99,999,999,999. That should be pretty big. All right. And it cannot be null, and it's a primary key, and it's an auto increment. So even though it says the default is null, it can't be null because it's automatically going to be incremented for us. On the other hand, the category description is a variable length field. Varchar means, the V in there means variable, or VAR. So it can be anywhere from 0 characters to a maximum of 75 characters. Now, the way that most databases work, it says here 75 is our max, right? Let's just say I keep typing and I put in 1,000 characters. Typically what it'll do is it won't give you an error. It'll just truncate after 75 characters. You won't have them. All right? And again, it says that this is a varchar, meaning it's variable length, and it can be null. All right? Now, I didn't show you this, but we could have gone in and added the tables and made them look pretty much like this. In other words, we could have come in and put in the stuff for each field. I just didn't want to take the time to do that. All right? Now, let's say that next somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to know how many records are in each one of these tables. All right, you with me? I just want to know. In fact, I know there's 6 categories, so I don't care about that. But I want to know how many orders there are or how many records there are in the orders table. I want to know how many records there are in the order detail table. And the easiest way to do that, I'm going to show you it right now, and feel free to run this, is to type in select count, then in parentheses you put an asterisk from, and then the name of the table. That just says do a count of the total number of records that are in the orders table. So if I take that select count star from orders and I run it, it comes back and it says, there's the answer down here. Count, 944. Now, do you notice that's kind of a crummy name? Count star in parentheses. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think that's kind of a crummy name. Okay, so I want to show you how you can fix that if you want to. Let's just say I want to just call it count. All right, maybe that's a crummy name, but that's what I want to call it. So right now it's called this by default, the name of the command, count star. All right, so I'm going to say select count star, then I'm going to say as count. When I use as, I'm saying I want to title what I'm about to do. So I've got in here select count star as count from orders. And you saw the first one, the one we just ran, you saw how it looked, count star right here. I haven't run the query yet, so you can see what it looks like. But now with this one, with select count star as count from orders, when I run it, notice the difference. So you can name these anything you want to name them. Also, I believe, I'm going to check it right now, that if what you're putting in here is just a single word, I don't even think you need the quotes. See that? And I think this will still work. And it did. In fact, just to double check, let's call it count 2 here. And count 2. So that worked. But if we were to come in here and I want to say count of all records, and I try doing that, and I don't put it into double quotes, it doesn't understand. It's giving me an error on the word of, because it says, oh, I've now renamed this, and it thinks that of is part of another command. All right. And it doesn't understand it. But if I do come back in here and I put all of this into double quotes, you notice that the error goes away. All right. So when I come in here now and run it, it's a long title, but there it is. All right. So again, and I'm not expecting that every single thing that I'm going over with you right now is like, maybe it's going in one ear and out the other, but I just want you to see this stuff. All right. Because what I want you to understand is when we start to bring this back into the realm of our C#, we're going to be writing a lot of code that's going to do this for us. And that's totally fine. But it's nice that you know what's happening behind the scenes. And I think I even mentioned this to you maybe a week or two ago, but I'm going to say it again. When we start to bring this back into C#, I'm going to show you, we're going to literally hand code everything that's happening. And then when we get done and you say, oh, I'll say, yeah, I understand that, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing, basically walking through a wizard that will do it for us. But to me, it's important that you understand what the wizard's doing. All right. I used to work with a guy, he's still a good friend of mine, that when people would ask him certain things and he didn't know the answer, he'd say FM. And they'd go, FM? And he'd say, flamin' magic. All right. It's like it happens and nobody knows why. Well, this guy actually was in the Army. I always thought he was going to get fired because he didn't say flamin'. You can imagine what he did say. And it wasn't flamin'. All right. But the point is, to me, it's important that you understand what's happening under the hood. Anybody can do this stuff, but if something doesn't work, or if you need to customize something, and you say, I can't do that, I mean, the wizard doesn't let me. Well, that's not going to help you too much, on the job or whatever. All right, it's 9:01. Let's take a break. Let's come back at 9:15, and we'll just continue on.